What is going on, guys? My name is Cameron and welcome to the review for the Amazing Spider-Man issue 15. And just going off the front cover, you can probably tell that we're going to be seeing Mary Jane suit up and be a complete badass. But I'm not going to give anything too much away, so we'll leave it at that. Now, in the previous issue towards the end, we saw Regent beat the living crap out of Spider-Man and Iron Man, and things weren't looking too well for them. So it seems Regent has gone mad with power. So guys, I think it's time to get into this review and jump into this comic, so let's go. Alright, so the issue opens up with Jarvis and Mary Jane obviously watching Iron Man and Spider-Man getting the living crap beaten out of them. And one of the things right off the bat that I noticed that, well, kind of took me by surprise and probably something that you guys would love is that there is a Game of Thrones reference in there. And I don't actually watch Game of Thrones, but even I know that's a Hold the Door reference, Hodor, whatever you want to call it. I don't really get it, but obviously I know it's a major thing, so it's pretty awesome that that's in there, if I'm correct, that is. And so I think it's awesome that the writers actually put stuff like that in there, especially because I think Dan Slott is a major Game of Thrones fan, especially going off his Twitter anyway. Every now and again he tweets about it. So as I've already said, it was good to see, and of course we saw Mary Jane back there remembering the Spider Island event. And again, just like these comics recently, ever since Mary Jane began working for Tony Stark, the comics have just been showcasing her intelligence, and of course, she's not just a pretty face, she likes to get stuck in and get her hands dirty, etc. And this comic is no exception when dealing with Mary Jane becoming an absolute badass. And speaking of badasses, Harry Osborn has been taking initiative in these recent issues, showing off his Green Goblin intellect, or at least his smarts and his wits about him, and it's been seriously awesome to see that side of Harry Osborn. But now going back over to Mary Jane, she jumps into the comic in the Iron Spider costume, completely taking everybody by surprise. And I honestly have to say that the Iron Spider costume suits her amazingly, no pun intended. And what I just love is that there's the Civil War 2 event going on right now, and there's just all of these little hints towards Civil War, such as the Iron Spider costume first came out when Civil War the original event was going on, and a few other crazy things which I'll point to later on in the issue. But right now what's happening on screen is all of the characters are kind of remembering this before, even though it's never happened before. Something like this has happened before in an alternate universe or in an altered timeline or something like that, and these characters are actually all remembering it. And I think it hits home a lot when Regent also remembers a similar situation, and that's because it has happened before. Regent fought Spider-Man before in the alternate universe's The Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows saga, and that saga is actually where Peter Parker and Mary Jane stayed married and had a daughter, and Regent was the villain in that saga. And of course, the reason why they feel like this has happened before is also because of the Iron Spider costume. This came around in the original Civil War saga. Now, in the original Civil War, Peter Parker and Mary Jane were actually married. That ultimately all got erased because Peter Parker and Mary Jane gave up their marriage to save Aunt May's life and made the deal with Mephisto. Basically, it's really complicated, but for Mephisto to save Aunt May, he wanted Mary Jane and Peter to sacrifice their marriage, and so they did, and then everything got erased. You can check out the review for that saga in the top right corner of the screen now. But anyway, there's a bunch more things that are going to be happening throughout this issue, and I'll get more into it towards the end. But now going back into the comic review, Mary Jane putting on the Iron Spider costume and technically teaming up with Spider-Man and Iron Man, it makes me wonder, will Mary Jane be getting her own Iron Spider comic book series? Will she become like a new ally for Iron Man / Tony Stark on these missions and stuff like that? Like, what will Mary Jane become now that she's shown that she's got this fight inside to her, especially in her new job with Tony Stark? As for going into Regent's power set and the way he's beaten as a villain, etc. in this issue, I was very concerned and felt a little bit underwhelmed with how they kind of beat him and how they took his powers away, because literally all they had to do was take the other heroes out of those like test tube things that they were in, and then I imagine that maybe Regent would have fought ahead of that or something, you know, so those superheroes don't have to stay in those tanks all the time, you know, like being able to absorb their powers without having them in the tanks at all times. So I'm not disappointed or anything. Regent is still an awesome villain, but I just felt a little bit underwhelmed with how easy it was to kind of take him down, especially since he was almost a god with all of these superpowers. But then again, it kind of makes me think that he will most likely return in an even more dangerous way, almost like Dan Slott is saving him for something better in the future, and if so, then I can't wait to see it. I was also very fond of how the comic addressed Miles' parents and how they're kind of in the background probably stressing out, and just how they dealt with that with Miles taking a selfie. Considering his dad knows that he's Spider-Man, he'll most likely see that selfie and know that Miles is okay. So I thought that was an awesome way that the comic kind of introduced, you know, the 21st century technology of selfies and probably Instagram and Spider-Man alerts and all that stuff, so that was awesome. Now, coming up to the final few pages of the comic, I get a very reminiscent feeling of the Brand New Day saga, because everyone's drinking champagne, everyone's surrounded by their loved ones, and that is exactly how the Brand New Day saga ended right after Peter and Mary Jane erased their marriage and all that crazy stuff back in the One More Day saga. Now, in a way, this feels like it's going to be the end of a chapter for Peter Parker and Mary Jane, especially because Mary Jane's back in the city. Peter is once again talking to Mary Jane, they're making conversation, everyone's happy, everyone's celebrating, and then as we get towards the final page of the issue, Aunt May's husband falls to the ground, coughing blood, and if you remember in the previous issue, it was actually Aunt May that was coughing blood, so maybe there's something to do with like maybe another spider, I don't know, maybe a disease going around, something crazy like that. And if you've been watching my Spider-Man 2099 reviews, well, actually I haven't reviewed the recent issue yet, but in the recent Spider-Man 2099 review, you learn about like this virus that destroys the 2099 universe or something. Obviously, I'm not going to give anything away, but it seems like something like, it's almost like Rise of the Planet of the Apes. If you've seen that movie where everyone starts coughing blood, it's similar to that. And so my theory is that this is where it starts, and it's going to get really, really crazy. But going into how all these things are leading to like maybe another One More Day saga and Civil War 2, basically, in the One More Day saga, it was Aunt May that was dying, and so here at the end of this issue, it's now Aunt May's husband that is dying. And of course, there's all those other like twists at the beginning of the comic and everything like that. But if you want to understand fully what I'm talking about, it is a little bit confusing, you should definitely watch my reviews for the Back in Black saga, and then right after that, watch my reviews for the One More Day saga, and you will completely understand what I'm talking about. By the way, the Back in Black saga is actually one of the most badass sagas of Spider-Man you will ever read. Like seriously, Spider-Man breaks bones in that and everything. Check it out, it's awesome. But that is the end of the issue, guys. That is the end of this review. What did you think? Let me know in the comment section below. It did get a little bit confusing and a little bit crazy, and it basically seems like there's all these things coming into fruition. You've got Civil War 2, you've got the end of like the 2099 universe, you've got Mary Jane and Peter coming back together, and you've got everyone kind of reminiscing and spending time with family, and all of the characters feeling like this has all happened before. So the possibilities are endless, but I hope we find out soon what's going on, and I hope it's good. But guys, that is the end of this review. I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. Mary Jane in the Iron Spider costume is awesome. I wish we were going to get a series of that, but it seems like Mary Jane isn't too quick to rush into that yet, so she might never even suit up again, who knows. But remember, we've also got Dr. Octopus in the background wanting to return, so that's something else to look forward to. Man, there's so many like storylines and side things that are coming up. It's going to get a little bit crazy. Now, that is the end of this review, guys. Go to the links in the description to follow me on Facebook and Twitter. I will be doing a digital comic code giveaway on my Twitter later tonight. And if you want to support the channel, then go to the links in the description and become a Patreon, as you can get Ultimate Spider-Man reviews early, you can get all these videos early, you can be entered into giveaways for pop figures and all that crazy stuff, and you can just see behind the scenes of how these videos are made. So check it out and see what you think. And last but not least, guys, if you like this video, if you like this YouTube channel, hit the like button on this video, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you all next time.